So here we are in Talon. If you scroll down to our module 2, one of the first things you want to do is to download that zip file. So click on that, click download, and then you want to go to your SketchUp folder. Go ahead and put it inside our lectures, and it'll come in as a zip file. Click save. Take a few moments to do that. Once it's done, it'll say that it's ready to go. At this point, you can just click this button here. Here is our zip file. So here it is in the lectures folder that we use to download our files. Notice again, it's a zip file. There's a zip behind at the end here. So we're going to right click and extract all. And then extract. We can see that we now have a new folder here called Module 2 without that zip. Notice the difference in the graphic. I'm going to take this and put it in a recycle bin. Get out of the way. I've downloaded my files. If I need to, I can always go back to Talon and re-download again if I miss a file. Double click to open it up, and here's our lecture. And that's how we can start our lecture for this session. In this session, we'll be looking at the toolbar and some basics about it, as well as creating some fundamental objects and learning how to do that using SketchUp videos. I want to make sure you also have been able to download the Microsoft Office from the Course Tools module in Talon. If not, please make sure to do so. We will be using it, I believe, in the next session. Remember also to save your files in more than one spot. So on your computer might be one, but you might want to do it on a portable drive, or if you've got online storage, go ahead and copy there as well. It's good to have multiple locations just in case something happens to one of them. So, you were asked to play around with the SketchUp program. Have you been able to do so and had some time each day? Again, practice is very critical. Learn to ride a bike by practicing riding the bike over and over and over again. And that's the same thing with all computer programs. You want to have this practice so it almost becomes muscle memory. Were you able to submit your assignments okay? And hopefully you did. Some of you still may not have your laptops or your SketchUp set up, so you've been using Nielsen Hall computers in the Alsop lab down at the lower level. It's a good idea to work there if you do not have a laptop yet set up so that you can turn your assignments in when due. Now remember, when the assignment end date occurs and the available date happens, then the folder closes. You can't really get in. So the only way to see the work and some of the comments I have provided for you is through submission review. So if you go to course content, submission review, and then click on that link, it'll take you to a page that looks something like this. It'll have the name of the homework, and then what kind of score you received, and then the submissions, any sort of feedback. And if you click on it, you can see what I wrote. If you've got a full credit, I would still recommend you look at my feedback because you may have done the work sufficiently to prove that you have some competency. However, there might be something I want to touch base with you on. So definitely look at that. Now, if you've only gotten like a 0.1 or something along those lines, not the full credit, then you can still turn it back in after you revise it, and you definitely want to look at my notes to see what needs to be adjusted. Hopefully you remember how to find the assignments in the lecture. If you open up that PDF and click the Control F key on your keyboard, it opens up the search tab and you can fill in the word assignment, and then it always shows up that. And any of those due dates and those end dates or available dates are posted on Talon, so Talon has those. What you might want to do is to get notifications. But if you right click on your name in Talon up at the top and click on notifications, you can go down here and click something like this, assignments due the end date or due date or end date is 2 days away. You click on that and it'll give you reminders. So it'd be worth your while looking at that. There might be some other notifications there too in Talon that you might want to check on. And I believe this will be for all your assignments for all your classes. So that's even better. As long as the assignment has a Dropbox on Talon, this program will notify you. One thing I want to bring to your attention, especially as we go forward here, is that some videos were done in older versions and some videos were done in a Mac version. So the information's good, but it may not match exactly tool by tool. And here's an example on the screen. So there's some older icons and some newer icons. You can kind of match the icons and get a good idea. For example, that's the paint bucket tool. That's the paint bucket tool. That's the select tool. That's the select tool. You know, eraser tool. Maybe this will be kind of tricky, but you say that looks like an eraser. Also, this part got new tools. Some tools are, like I said, are obvious. They're laid out. So this palette here, you can kind of see which are which, and the tools look very similar one to the other. So just letting you know that, because some of those videos again are older videos, but the information is still quite good. So let's look at one of these called the Move tool. At the bottom of the lecture PDF has a full link, so you can actually go to that full link. If you click on it in your lecture PDF, you can get to the whole video again, just that video alone. Many of the slides in the lectures will have links, and that will get you to that specific information that's on that slide.
Hi, this is Tyson with another SketchUp Skill Builder. Something that's fairly common if you're new to SketchUp is some frustrations with the Move tool. And it happens something like this. You take this plant and say, I want to move this plant up here on the deck. So you grab it and move it up here, and it's buried in the deck. Definitely not what you want. And here's why. If I hit escape, get out of that, let me instead grab one of these leaves as the starting point. So I click here. That leaf becomes essentially the control point. Think of it as everything is going to move relative to that point. And so when you're using the Move tool, you need to think about each point as a control point. And this was a poor choice. So I'm going to hit escape, get out of that. And instead, because I want this to be on the deck, I'm going to choose a control point that's the base here. So I'll click to start here. And that's much better. So we might refer to that as an exact move. I grabbed some point on the object itself. That's an absolute move. Another useful technique is something that we could refer to as a relative move. And that is where we're not going to move this object by geometry that's on the object itself. So what I mean is if I want to take this plant now and move it back here farther along the deck, there's not really a good control point anywhere here that's going to do that for me because it's going to intersect with this other geometry. But I don't have to move it by a point on the object. I can just have the object selected and then move by somewhere here on the deck to somewhere else on the deck. And by doing that, I'm keeping that flat on the deck, and I can move it in various ways and various places and various times, and it's staying flat on the deck because I'm being careful to move it relatively using only points on the deck. Again, if I were careless and started here and then moved somewhere up here on one of these chairs, you can see it starts moving up in the air. So I've got to be careful to relatively move it only based on that geometry. Now, a good way to practice this is to set up a very simple scene. So let's create a new file, and I'm going to draw a simple object. Something like this is all we need. Grab this, group it, and then around that I'll draw a larger box, pull that up, and erase this front corner, giving us this sort of enclosure. And inside here, I'm going to draw a couple of rectangles. Size and placement isn't going to matter so much. But what we want to do is practice using the Move tool. And the first thing we'll practice is exact moves. So let's select the object and move it exactly from this corner to that corner, or from that corner here, or here, or here, If we move this corner back here, you can see it's going to be embedded. So in this case, we need to choose a better control point. Let's use this corner and back here. So that's practicing an exact move. Now let's move this exactly back to the surface. To practice a relative move, let's create a bit of extra geometry over here, and this time select the object, but you can only move it by using these surfaces. This is what I mean. I'm not going to take the move tool and move it off of these surfaces, but I'm still going to hit all these targets. So there's one, and I'll move it back and forward and over here a little bit. There's two. Then I'll move it forward. I can even move it forward from up here. So I start hitting all these targets. Let's go back here now. I'm going to move it close to that wall and then move it vertically and then back horizontally. So you start to get the idea. This is really good practice again for just using or practicing moving an object without even touching that object, but still getting it very close to where you want it to go. And this is just really useful for all of those objects that you might have that, they need to stay flat on a surface, for example, but exactly where on that surface, that's less important. And so practice that. Try that yourself. Practice moving things exactly corner to corner and from points to points, and then try putting something on a surface and moving it relatively. Cheers!
To practice moving in SketchUp, we have a move exercise project, and it's inside your Module 2 folder. The Session 2 zip file that you copied and unzipped. While you do the assignment, you need to watch the video that's in there. So let's take a look at that a little bit. So inside of our SketchUp folder, Lectures, Module 2, there's that Module 2 folder. Inside there, there's that move exercise. Inside the move exercise folder, there are 3 different files. One of them is a video file, one of them is a doc file, and one of them is the actual SketchUp file. The doc file basically says where the information came from online. So the doc file shows you who is the designer of the video and so forth. I don't believe this video link works anymore. I think it's been taken down, but the video is still good and the exercise is still good. So what I'd want you to do is to open the SketchUp file. Again, these will pop up for older SketchUp files, but this will work just fine in the newer version of SketchUp. So it opens up like this. We've seen this something like this on our tutorial files, right? We've got tabs at the top, and we'll do this. The difference is that we're watching a video as opposed to perhaps following a different instruction. The video is located also in the folder. It's an MP4 file, so double click on that. And when it opens up, you'll see it starts like this. It'll start right away. It'll start right away with the words and so forth, and it's the talking.
This is exercise 1. In this exercise, we're going to stack the cubes as shown in the upper left.
So the instructions are there verbally. They're showing you up in the upper corner what it's going to look like when you complete the task. The author of this video will show you how to get that done.
I'm going to pre-select a component before moving it and grab it at a corner and put that corner at a corresponding corner on the other component.
And so you would work through that. You'd work through the whole video that way. This would be a perfect time to pause and do that exact same thing in your SketchUp file. So here we go. That's the intro. Click on exercise 1, where he's at. He's on exercise 1. And then select it and the move tool, and there you go. And he'll go through the whole thing the same way. They'll go, and then you go back to your video, and then you just keep on going.
We'll select the blue cube.
Okay. If there's something you have to go back, here's that the little bar here. You can go back to where you were okay. And then if you have to here, again, if you find out you need to do something wrong, the undo button can get you back where it was. When you're done, you'll have all these cubes stacked up like that. Some of these pictures have the plan view on it. I've updated the file a little bit to have that, so you can double check yourself on some of these assignment exercises. So if you click on exercise 1, it's going to look like this. When you click on exercise 1 plan, we'll see what it looks like face down. Well, you can see that this does not match the plan view, so perhaps I need to go back on it. And of course it wouldn't, because I took the block off. So in exercise 2, there's exercise 2 plan, and so forth. So work on the exercise tab, make sure you get that squared off. And then to double check yourself, click on exercise 1 plan, and see if it does look the same. And they all have it, all these have a plan view. It's important that they look like that. So it kind of gives you a double check for yourself. For exercise 6, what you're going to want to do is select the piece first, rotate it in position, and then put it in place. So this one, for example, needs to go in sideways to this side. If you take a look at the picture, red's here, green's here, blue's here. So I would select it first with the selection tool, then use the rotate tool, and the gentleman tells you about that. And I would click out here somewhere on the rotate tool, so I'm not even on it, because if you click on it, you're going to get some funny things. See how the protractor looks weird? So I cut here somewhere, click, pick an angle, click, and then go this way and type in 90, right? And then I'll go that way. If you needed to go vertically, you could, hit the left arrow key or the right arrow key on the keyboard, and it'll do that. Now, once it's in position, you do M for move, and then take a look at the edge. Notice how it's not quite curves. Remember, the SketchUp program does not do curves as a smooth element. They're all small straight line segments. So I would grab an endpoint of one of these little straight line segments, click, and then go to the other model here and try and find the straight line segment that kind of lines up with it. And you can see like that won't line up with it. But if I move slowly, that one will. That's a perfect straight line segment. And you can do the same with the other ones. Once you have it all done, you save the file and submit to Talon. When you're done with the whole file, done with all the exercises, make sure you've gone through all the tabs, what they ask you to do, upload it to Talon. In this assignment, I did add the top view, the plan view of the exercises, just as a double check for yourself. Makes things easier to double check yourself if you have a different angled view, so you know if things do or do not really line up. And in this assignment, precision is critical. The reason I assigned this assignment is so that you could show me that you can actually move pieces exactly where they need to be moved, from point to point, from place to place. Again, if you follow the video, you should be making that pretty well. And if you have any difficulties, don't hesitate to contact me. Our next assignment is making a third chair. I call it third chair because we're going to be looking at a video that has 3 chairs. And the first 2, it walks you through pretty well, but the third one, they don't really quite delineate it quite as clearly. And so that's the one we'll do together in this session. We're going to be using the tools that I asked you to look at from last session. Hopefully you had a chance to look at these because they'll be really helpful to you as you make this third chair model. This assignment came from a video tutorial, again, another one that's a little older, but kind of giving you introductory steps in the SketchUp program. The first 2, again, are very delineated how to do it. They're pretty clear about it. But that last one, they call it a teaser. And so what we'll do is we're going to take this teaser and expand on it. If you look at this link here in your PDF, it'll take you directly to the step-by-step of the teaser, working through the teaser and explaining what's going on there. And something to be aware of, the video might point to an icon on a toolbar. It's going to be an older version icon. Again, the information is good, but the image is different. If you go to the lecture PDF, I have screenshots of some of the steps, and I have the newest toolbar there, so you can double check yourself. Again, I think it's pretty similar, the tools they're using. You'll be able to find them on the new toolbar, but just in case, they're also here in the lecture PDF. So let's begin. In this video, we will go over the steps in creating the third chair of a video series that showed how to do the first two. In the series, the third chair was supposed to be a teaser, but I thought it would be good to explain some of the steps used to create it and help elaborate on that video. I'd like to cover some sizes though that we will be using because the video did not really clarify that. We're going to make a seat that's going to be 18 inches by 21 inches by 1.5 inches thick. The legs will be will be a 2-inch square legs that will be 16.5 inches high, and that will put the chair at an 18-inch seat height. And for the spindles in the back of the chair, we're going to have them be 1/2-inch radius. With those pieces of information, we can create a chair that looks very similar to the one in the video. So let's first look at the video, and then we'll pause and build the chair in our SketchUp model.
I'll start by creating the chair seat, rounding of the back end with arc and push-pull, and then I'll group this into one object.
Pausing the original video, let's go back to our SketchUp model. To begin, we will create the seat. Use a rectangle tool or type in R for rectangle. Click a point on the surface, move diagonally across, and then type in 18,21. Enter. We want to look downwards onto this plane because if we looked at the horizon and created a rectangle, it would be actually floating vertically, and that's not what we want. Type in P for push-pull, click the surface, move upwards, let go of your mouse, type in 1.5, enter. That'll give us the 1.5-inch height. And then an item that video did not speak about is using the tape measure tool to create guidelines, but I find that very helpful. That'll position our points well across the back of our seat. So select the tape measure tool or type in T for tape measure, that's the shortcut. And hover along this edge and you'll see this red dot. Click, move across in the green and type in 18. Enter. That will be our 2 points where we'll input our arc. So they line up across from each other. The arc tools, there's a variety of them we can use, and I certainly encourage you to look at them and play around with them. But the one we're going to be looking at today is this one here, the 2-point arc. Basically, they want to provide the 2 points and then the bulge that is created off those 2 points. And the cursor also gives you a hint of what you need to do. For example, our cursor has an arc with 1 dot on it. Basically, it's giving us a visual clue that we need to put down the first point. Click. Notice the cursor changed now to 2 points. Let's do the second point. Click. And then you can see the cursor asks for the bulge. Now, I don't want to go all the way to the edge. It really isn't bad, but it's just going to cause a little bit of trouble later on in the way this model develops. So I'm going to go just kind of close to it, but not touching. So don't touch this point. Just kind of hover away from it a little bit and click. And we've separated that back area from the seat itself. Type in P for push-pull and click this back surface. Go down, and as it touches the bottom plane and you click on it, it disappears because the 2 planes touching each other makes that surface go away. At this point, I no longer need the guideline, and it's a good idea to clean the model as you go. So I will use the eraser tool and erase it. I can also go under Edit, Delete Guides. That's a quick way of getting rid of all the guidelines in the model that are not used anymore. Hit the space bar to get the selection tool and triple click on the seat. Right click, make component. The video told about making a group, but I prefer to make components on all my SketchUp models. Find components is a good thing because it also names each component as you make them. This one will be called seat. You can see that the component has been made, a bounding box has been around our shape, and we can proceed to the next part of the video.
Now looking underneath, I'll draw one rectangle, select it, and turn it into a component, calling it chair leg. I can then easily copy this rectangle around, and when I open this component to work on it, pulling the leg down pulls all the legs down. You see, any copies of a component share attributes, so no matter how many copies there are, you only need to change one component to change them all. Let's work on the upper chair and use this idea of components again.
Following the steps in the video, let's orbit to underneath and create a square in one of the corners. So using the rectangle tool, type R for rectangle, I'm going to put my cursor here at this corner, click, and move away and type 2, 2. I find that's a good shape for the rectangle. Hit the space bar and double click on this rectangle, and when I do, I select the surface and the edge. It's kind of hard to see, but there's like little dots on here to say that surface has been selected. Right click over that shape and select Make Component. I'm just going to call mine leg. You can call yours chair leg. Either way is fine. One other caveat too, make sure that this is always checked. Occasionally that does get unchecked. So just make sure this is always checked, and that when you do make a component and you do want the component replaced by the shape replaced by the component, that it does so. Hit create. And so this is now a component. Type in M for move, and I'll click this corner here because I'm going to basically make a copy of this component over here on this side. And so this corner here will line up with that corner. So I selected the move tool, it's already active. I'm going to tap the control key and that will make it a copy. I believe you can use the command key for the Mac. And click this point right here, click, and go across the seat to this point here, click. Now I can select both of these by using the space bar to make a selection tool, hold down the control key, which I believe is shift in a Mac, click, and both of these are now selected. M for move, tap the control key or option key on a map, click, and click back here, and now we have all 4 chair legs in position. I need to now go into one of these components to get the length. So I use the space bar to select, and I'm going to double click one of the legs, and then I'll type in P for push pull. Click the surface, move downwards, and type in 16.5, enter. That's the height of the leg that we have decided. And we chose that so that when the chair is completed, the seat is 18 inches off the floor, which is the typical height for seats. Here we can see how components work. Whatever happens to one component happens to all of them. And so all the chair legs went down. I don't need to work any more on this. We'll work on this later in this video. But I can just use the space bar and click outside, and I'm outside. It's important to be aware of whether you're in a component or out of a component when you work. If I double click, you can see the world becomes kind of grayed out or washed out, and you have a bounding box over the component. I'm going to click away, everything becomes natural color. Let's go to the video and follow the next steps.
I'll create one circle, pull it up, and make it a component. Then create a quick array using the Rotate tool.
So let's orbit to the top, and let's make a circle on the top using the Circle tool. Tap in C for circle, click, move outwards, let go of your mouse, type in 0.5, press enter. And that will give us a similar circle here to the size of the video. P for push pull, click, move upwards, click. And right now we just want a height. It doesn't really matter the length of this quite yet. Triple click the object so that you have the whole thing selected, right click, make component. I'm going to call mine spindle, create. Now I'm going to use the move tool. It's still selected, so I can just type in M for move. And I'm going to use a relative move. In other words, I don't need any specific point here to touch any specific point here. Not like the underside where I wanted this chair leg to be right up against the bottom of the seat here. I need this one could be just somewhat away. So I'm going to use a relative move and click out here on this surface and kind of move my mouse. And when I like what I see, I think this is about right. I can use maybe my scroll wheel and orbit around a little bit, and I'm going to go click. That looks like a good spot for the first spindle to be. Then she spoke about a rotate array. So rotate tool looks like a pair of chasing arrows here. It's the letter Q, keyboard shortcut, and you get this protractor kind of graphic on your cursor. And basically we need to select three things. The point that is going to be the fixed point upon which things will rotate. Then the opposite point where the rotation will start, I tend to call it my zero angle. And then finally, where it's going to go to, and that could be something done visually, or you type in a number. In the video, she picked the midpoint of the chair right here. So I'm going to move my cursor up or down until I get the midpoint of the seat. I'm going to select click. And now that point is fixed. In other words, I will be rotating against that point. Then I'm going to move my cursor, and I like to go past the underside of the spindle, but imagining where that line would intersect the underside of the spindle. And then click out here somewhere. Click. Tap the control key so it's a copy. If I don't tap control now, it's just a move. Tapping the control key makes it a copy. And then again, I eyeball the other location of the leg where I think it works pretty well. Click. And now I can select how many divisions is going to happen there. I'll type in 5/ or 5 divide and press enter. And now that back area has been broken to 5 equal segments, so we have nice spindles back there.
Now I can easily adjust the height as needed, or add detail as well to all of the chair posts at the same time. Another great tool to explore is the offset tool. I can use this tool to create a curved shape for the chair back. And after drawing all the edges to create a closed loop, I'll select the shape and copy it upward. Then pull it into a chair back. Sometimes it's just easier to create a shape based on other geometry, then move it to where it's needed. I can erase the original shape now. A few adjustments, and this chair is coming together.
Now I can go ahead and select one of these and make it the height that I would like. So, using the push-pull tool, select the top surface, and I'll go up, and I can go up and make it like a tall shaker type chair, or maybe a lower, maybe Art Deco type kind of chair. I'm going to just do something kind of halfway, kind of contemporary chair back, and call it done. Whatever I do to one component happens to all of them, so these all got the correct height. Hit the space bar and click away. So now we can build new geometry from existing geometry. And what we're going to do is double click on the seat and select the offset tool, which looks like a pair of arcs. The keyboard shortcut is F. And if you see, when you go to this edge here, you can select the whole seat bottom if your cursor's in the middle, or if you go to an edge, you'll select just that edge. I'm going to select the edge and click and come inwards until about the spindles will be halfway in the bottom there, so it looks about right, and click again. Notice the line is dark, meaning it's not been broken the surface, and so I'm going to use the line tool, press L for line, click this back end, click, go to this edge, click, press escape to get out of the tool, go back to the other side, click, and go to this other end, click. you should notice right away that the line becomes thinner and you can select one or the other. That is what we want to see happening. We'll select this back end, use the Move tool, and I want to tap the Control key because I want it to be a copy. Click, and I'm going to go up in the blue. It's so easy to get off angle by mistake, and you might think you'd be going up and you're really not. You can hit the up arrow key on the keyboard, and then just go up in the blue till you get to the top there. Then we'll use push-pull, and push-pull that up a height that you like. Again, some people like a deeper back, some want a very shallow one. It's whichever one you think looks pretty good. Click the space bar and click away a bit. So now, looking at my spindles and relationship to the back needs to be a little bit longer. So I will use the push-pull tool, type in P for push-pull, select this back, click, and go out a distance that looks right. Click. And then to repeat the same distance, I'm going to orbit to this side and double click on this end. Because once you have a certain distance in memory of push-pull, you can double click and they'll repeat that same distance. One thing I like to get rid of is these lines. And these lines are there because this is a straight portion meeting a curved portion. Curved portions are made out of straight portions. If you go to View, Hidden Geometry, you can see the segments that are created, the cylinders and this back end. If I try to erase this solid line, I will actually erase part of the model. You can see what happened there. What I would like to do instead is to soften that and make it become part of that curve. If I use the eraser tool and hold down the Control key, I believe it would be the Option key for Macs, and click on that line becomes softened. Same thing on the other side. And when we go to View, Hidden Geometry and take it off, that line is not going to be a hard line there. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Click. Click. And I am using the Control key each time. I can go ahead now and erase these lines down here. Again, it's a good habit to get into to remove geometry that's used to create other geometry guidelines as you go so you don't snap to something by mistake.
Just for fun, let's introduce one more tool. Let's bevel this chair seat with the Follow Me tool. Draw a shape and use the Follow Me tool to pull that shape around the whole chair seat.
So we're going to create a little wedge shape in the front, and we'll carve that out of the seat using the Follow Me tool. Let's start with a line tool and basically go from edge to edge. I like to have it be relatively shallow. Something looks like this. Using the Select tool, make sure you can select each part separately. Otherwise, you may actually have a gap, or you may not have actually gone to edge to edge. So this surface is broken, which is what I want. The video shows taking the Follow Me tool and wrapping it around the seat. A quicker way of doing this would be to select the path the tool is supposed to choose, then the Follow Me tool, then the profile that's going to follow the path. So in other words, if I select the path, I can click on that surface. By clicking the surface of the seat, I'm actually selecting all the edges. Then the Follow Me tool, and then click this little wedge right here, and it is carved out of the seat. I find this technique faster to complete. If I didn't want to go all the way around the seat, perhaps only partially, I would have selected the lines, holding down the Control key, and then selected the Follow Me tool and then the wedge. But in this case, I did want the whole seat selected. We were inside the seat component. One thing to notice, however, is the back. Now that the seat has been carved out, the wedge has been carved out of the back, the spindles are sort of floating. Get out of the component by clicking away. Double click on the spindle. Select Push-Pull, P for Push-Pull, and click the bottom, and then just go down into the seat. And now this looks like I would expect. Hit the space bar and click away, and then let's work on the chair legs using a similar technique. Let's go back to the video to see how she did it.
We can use this tool as well on the legs. I'll draw a profile to make the legs more interesting. Then use the Follow Me tool to pull the shape around the leg.
Using the Selection tool, I'm going to double click on one of the chair legs, and I'm going to create myself a couple of guidelines with the tape measure tool. I find I don't want to get too close to the middle or touch the outermost edge with this next technique, or I could create some funny shapes. So I'll use the tape measure tool, come in on the outermost edge, just hover here, click, and then go across the front and type in 1/8, press enter, for 1/8 inch. That will create a guide 1/8 inch away from the edge. Then do the same thing again on the outermost one and going across, and type in 5/8, press enter. So now I've got 5/8 inch away from the outside edge and a 1/8 inch away from the outside edge. I'm going to draw my profile between these pairs of lines. Using the line tool, I'll start on this outside edge here, click, and then I'll go in to perhaps here, click, go down a distance, click, come out a ways, click, down, click, in, click. Then we'll go all the way down to match the chair leg profile from the video. You could have additional profiles as well. Then to make it a bit more interesting, I'm going to use this 2-point arc again, and I'll click a point here, click, and a point here, click, and move outwards just a bit, click. I can move out all the way to this outside guideline if I so choose. Then use the eraser tool and erase any extraneous lines. And we're ready to use the Follow Me tool to finish this shape. So as before, I'm going to select the path, then select the tool, the Follow Me tool, then the profile that's going to follow the path. So orbit to the underside, use the space bar, the path will be the bottom of the chair leg. I want it to go all the way around. Then select the Follow Me tool, then the profile that's going to follow the path. And there you have it. The chair leg is roughly similar to the one in the video. Sometimes when you use the Follow Me tool, you'll get odd shapes or strange front-back face situations. It depends on the complexity of the shape. The lines have been drawn. We've got some arcs and some curves here. And so now I will orbit to the underneath, use the Selection tool to select the base, use the Follow Me tool, and select the outside piece to revolve around. Occasionally things like extra lines that might be created, or pieces slightly missing, little holes in the model. To solve this, I'd select the whole piece, make sure you're in the component, right-click Intersect Faces with Model to make sure that all the intersections are there, and then you can go and erase these little pieces here. We don't need the guidelines anymore. And then coming into this area here, we can just draw in the lines that are missing. If you do a little line from here to here, all of a sudden that wedge is closed off. Same thing here. And then you can't erase this line, but you can soften it using the eraser tool and the control key. That cleaned up that little bit. And then this part here, depending on whether the lines are there or not, occasionally when I see this happening, these lines are softened. So when I see these lines softened, you select that surface, you try to reverse faces, something like this might happen. What I recommend when that happens is you go to View, Hidden Geometry, and then select these individual surfaces and reverse them. And then go to View, Hidden Geometry to take those geometries off. And now this piece is ready to go. It's been cleaned up. We no longer need the person in this model, so I will delete this person and then select the whole piece, right click, make component, and call it chair. And then move this component to the origin. Move tool, I'll select one of the corners of the leg and then put it right at the origin. That's where the green, red, and blue axes all meet. And click away. So now when you insert this model into another one, the insertion point brought in will be at this axis. Hope this video was helpful in explaining the steps and the tools used for that third chair. So working along with the video, you were able to hopefully create a unique third chair for yourself, and we'll be using that at the next session. Now, as an assignment on your own, can you create the first two chairs from the video without any more explanation than what the video provides? One thing that they didn't specify, but I would like to ask you to do, is to make sure your chair seats are 18 inches off the ground. The two chairs, and you can put them in the same assignment, same SketchUp file. You don't put them in the same as the third chair. I'd start a new file and just follow the steps in the video. This is the link to the video. If you click on here in your PDF, you'll go right to the video, and you can just follow along through the video there. Pause as necessary. You won't have my commentary for those videos. So pause when you need to, rewind, see what they did, what tool they used, and so forth. When you're done, make sure you save the file. And you want to upload only the files with the SKP as the last three letters of the file name. And SKB is our backup file. SKP is our SketchUp file. And if you don't see those last three letters, go to Talon, go to Course Tools, and look at this video. Around 5 minutes, 25 seconds in, will be a discussion on how to exactly do that. So take a note of the due dates and the end dates or the available dates. Once the due date passes, your grade is going to automatically get assigned a 0. And then you still have until the end date or available date to submit work. And once you do that, I'll change that date, the grade. However, if you do find yourself struggling to meet a deadline, reach out to me so we can plan accordingly and I can help you. Do it well in advance of the due date if possible. And that's going to give us opportunity to discuss your questions, maybe figure things out. And of course, this example I have, I want you to make sure you verify the current semester dates in Talon for any video, any assignment, any time due dates are mentioned anywhere in this class. Talon would be the final say on it. Whatever's set up in Talon will be the final due dates to be aware of. What happens if you go past the available date, that end available date, you'd get this. You won't be able to upload files. You won't be able to upload your work. So it'll say, hey, sorry, this activity has passed, and so you can't submit. So that's what's important about those dates. I'd like to take the rest of this session to kind of review some of these SketchUp tools, look at some concepts of how to work with those tools, and you might want to save it for a future semester, or even when you are at the workplace. And I would not, some people have printed in the past, but you're going to use up all your black that way. So just keep it as a digital file. It'll be fine. So one thing to be aware of is, again, since we're using inches, we don't have to worry about typing in the inch symbol. And that makes it kind of quick when you're making models. However, you've got to be careful how you input. So if we want to type a distance of 3'6", we don't have to type in 3'6", press enter, and off we go. We've got that distance there. But we can't really type it with that hyphen between it. In other words, when we write, let's say, a document in Word, we probably would see it written like this. But when you input it into SketchUp, if you put it like this, it'll actually subtract the 6 inches from 3 feet. It'll be 3 foot minus 6 inches, or it'll be a 2'6" long element. So when typing distances, you don't need to worry about that dash. Now, sometimes you have to think about, though, if it's 3 5/8 inches, let's say, you've got to remember to put that space in there. We don't need a space between the foot symbol and the inch number, but we do need to have a space if it's all inches. So otherwise, it would do 35/8, which was actually 4 3/8. So just be careful. Make sure you put the 3 space 5/8, enter, and you'll be great. And a distance such as 1.5 inches could be typed as 1 space 1/2, or you can type it in 1.5 and press enter. Either way is fine. I want to remind you too about the different graphics and how they change depending on the surface you're on. So again, that green circle's endpoint, the blue diamond is on face, the cyan midpoint, red on edge. So there's all different kinds of symbols, and it's just a visual clue of where you are on the model. Because again, perspective comes in play. And like, for example, where's the midpoint of this line or this line? It's kind of hard sometimes to see that. Whereas if you have those symbols that you're, these little extra graphics that are helping you along, it'll just make your modeling faster. Certain tools are going to be used over and over and over again. And these are the ones that are most used. And also, it'd be good to use the keyboard shortcuts. And after a while, you're gonna remember them, and I'm gonna try in the lectures also to bring them up over and over again. But B for the paint bucket, E for eraser, L for line, R for rectangle, P for push pull, M for the move tool, Q for the rotate, and I think of Q almost like a little circle with a little line that you rotate around, so that kind of reminds me of that. F for offset, T for tape measure, and Z for zoom. So those are the keyboard shortcuts that are kind of really helpful to keep in mind as you go. And again, I will bring them up over and over again. So let's work it through on the model itself. So the rectangle tool, R for rectangle, and the rectangle tool, you click a point and go diagonally, right? That's what the graphic shows. And you have to type in a distance. Let's say it's 3'6", 3'6", comma 3'6", enter. And there's our shape. You can't really type down here. It's not going to let you do that, but it's going to show you what you're working with. So we needed to have the comma for a rectangle because we're going diagonally. If we're using the line tool, we don't need a comma. It's just a distance point. Click, move, and I'm not dragging. Either one I was not dragging. Both times I clicked, moved, and then I was going to do a second click. For the pencil, you can realize that I can go parallel to the red, or parallel to the green, or parallel to the blue. So these visual clues always are helpful. Let's say I want to do 3'6" parallel to the green, 3'6". When I press enter, it becomes a black line. And notice my pencil is still stuck to it. So it's ready for the next command, next command, next command if I wanted to. So I could draw a very, multi-sided shape, and even get off kilter. Maybe there's an angled line there, right? It doesn't always have to be perpendicular, although most times the spaces will be, but it's possible. To erase, just erase one edge and the whole plane goes away. And you can also just click and drag. Now there's a click and drag situation. Click and drag around the erase, and I can erase multiple lines at once. Once you have a plane drawn, then you bring it up to the third dimension. So P for push pull. Again, look at the graphic there. Click, I'm going to move up. I'm going to type in 3'6", enter. No need for a comma, right? That it's just going one direction, just like the line tool. 3'6", enter, and now we've got a shape. In this particular case, it's a cube, right? 3'6" by 3'6" by 3'6". And if we want to verify that, we use the tape measure tool. T for tape measure. And again, the symbol shows there as the tape measure. Remember, the point, the tip of the tape measure is what we want to measure. If I click here, click and go across to there, it'll tell me it's 3'6". Or if I go down, 3'6". If I go diagonally, it'll tell me the diagonal measurement. If you notice on the diagonal one, there's like a little squiggle before the foot symbol. I'll do that again here, you can see it. Right, squiggle 4 foot 11/3/8. That means it's approximately that. It's close to that. So if you ever draw something that needs to be a certain size for sure, and you want to verify it, if it has that squiggle, it means it's not quite there. So when you have a very strange dimension, it'll round it up or round it down just slightly. So you want to make sure that you get it just how you want it. Another thing we can do with the tape measure tool is to put guidelines, create guides. So if I go across here and say I want something to be 18 inches across, there it is. And I can measure it to verify that's 18 inches across. Click. 1'6", that's 18 inches. We've done that last session using tape measure tool for guides. By the way, I just changed quickly into the select tool. A lot of times after I'm done with a command, I'll just tap the space bar and it'll get me right to that. Now, selecting in SketchUp is kind of tricky sometimes. If you click once on a surface or an edge, you select that only. So I'm like, and every time I click somewhere else, like I selected that edge now, I select this surface, I selected this edge. If I double click, I select both the surface and its bounding. So you can try that, double click, and see if you can get both together. And to select the whole object, I triple click. So 3 clicks real fast selects the whole object that is connected. If you find yourself having difficulty with the double clicking, you can one click and then right click and then select what you want. All connected? There, all connected, right? Or right click, select, and then just the bounding edges. You can also use the shift and the control with the select tool. If I hold down the control key, look what happens to the select tool. It gets a little plus stuck to it. Now I can add other things to it. If I do the shift, I can add or subtract. This plane's not selected yet, so I click, it's selected. Oh, I don't want to select it. Click and it unselects. So depending on whether it's selected or not selected will depend on that tool. If I do the shift and control, it becomes a minus. Additionally, you can select by using window or crossing. To go window, you want to go from left to right, either bottom to top or top to bottom. It doesn't matter, but if you go left to right, it will select everything within the window. And what's not within the window, it doesn't there. Now, be careful, however, because if I orbit a little bit, you'll see I selected that line too. Why? Because in the angle I was in, when I did this, that line was in the selection area. So be careful with selecting like this. The crossing, anything within the crosshair. So if I go this way, everything without crosshairs was selected. Now this was not selected nor this, because when I went this way, they're not in the crosshairs. But of course all the back was. So it just depends. Sometimes it's easier to do a big crossing than to do a big window, but either way, if you want something all selected, a big window will do that. Or triple clicking. One thing to be aware of about shapes in SketchUp, they're basically hollow. I look at them more like folded pieces of paper. If I select this surface and hit the leap key on the keyboard, you can see it's just a box. It's not solid. Some programs, computer programs, make solid three-dimensional objects. This is not the case with SketchUp, so you can be aware of that. That being the case, this is considered the back face, and this is considered the front face. And that's important to keep in mind because some rendering programs render the front face and the back face differently. So here's an example of something being modeled, and we'll talk about this again when we get closer to it. And we think it looks fine. We've actually painted it in the materials that we want. It's the coloring we want. That looks great. And when it was rendered the first time, look what happened here. The people here in this picture are gone. And this curtain is now white. not the green like the other one. What's going on? And so when I look at the viewing it in front and back faces, which by the way, this up on the toolbar will show you front and back faces, you can see that our problem with our modeling is that these are back faces. The minute I flip them around, they rendered properly. Additionally, with SketchUp, if you have a shape and you lose a surface, you can draw a line along that edge and it'll create the surface again. Same thing here. I'm just going to make a quick shape here. If I erase one edge, the plane disappears. If I draw a line, the plane comes back. So that's something to consider as you work with the project. So we have one block here. I want to make a copy of it. So we select it, type in M for move, tap the control key, and look what happened to the move tool. It gets a little plus to it. I'm now in copy mode. I'm going to click a point, click, go over here, click a point, click, and now I've got two boxes. Let's undo that. I can also do an array. So I select the object, M for move, tap the control key, click, move a distance, click, and then before you type anything else or before you move anything else or click anything else, type in 3x, enter. And it would have done that move 3 times. At this point, I can type in 5x, enter. So whatever I did the first time can be repeated again over and over again. Let's undo that a second. The undo button. Let's go back here again. Let's say I want to select this, and I know that this is where a piece will be. M for move, tap the control key, click, and then we'll go this distance here. I know the other piece is going to be here. Let's say a series of columns, and these will be the 2 end columns. Click. But now I want it to be columns in between that are equal distances. I can do 3 divide. It divides a slash symbol on the number pad. Press enter. Maybe I want 4 divide. Press enter. Right? It divides it equally. So I know this distance from here to here. I know I want that set. Maybe there's something important that happens there. But the ones in between, I just want them equally spaced. Again, it's a quick way to get something done and to look and see what looks better. Let's undo that. Go back to here. Let's select a shape. M for move. Tap the control key and make just one copy. Another thing to be aware of in SketchUp is that when 2 shapes are put together, they will stick. It's called sticky geometry. It's designed that way, especially when you make complex shapes. It'll be very helpful. But you don't always want that. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to select it. So just a selection, right? A big window select here. So I got everything here. M for move. Tap the control key. And let's say just kind of hover over here, and you should be able to find the midpoint, right? It'll say midpoint eventually, right? Okay, so we're looking at that. Perfect. Click. So now this is together, right? So if I move this now, M for move, and you can see what happens, right? It's stuck. Press escape, go undo. So how do we create things that don't stick together? Well, this person's a bunch of stuff that I can grab all at once. And if I put this person and move that person here, that person's not going to stick. I can move that person back away. So what's going on there? Well, that person's called a component. There's also something called a group. Either one works. I prefer using components. With components, you name the group that you're making. And of course, groups can be turned into components in the future too, if necessary. But I just start off with naming things right away. It keeps your model in order if you know what the names of them are. So I'm going to select this. Right click, make component. And the shortcut's G for make component. I'm going to call it box. And we'll talk more about these objects later. But right now, just what you want to make sure is that you always have this checked. If it's checked, it's ready to go. It should check, but sometimes it gets dechecked. If it looks like it's checked, click create. And now you can see that this has been made into a shape. If I click on it, notice the difference. If I click on this, right, the plane gets selected. If I click on this, the whole shape gets selected. And what it is it's as if the whole form is inside of a glass box. So when I come around with this, move, click here, and go to the midpoint here, click, and then move away, it's not gluing it, right? It's not selecting, it's not grouping together. Let's go ahead and delete this. Let's go ahead and select this box, and for move, tap the control key, and let's make a copy over here. So now we're going to create two different styles of groupings of planes and so forth. Notice how this person, you click on it, the whole person selected, but when you click on these, different planes are selected. So I'm going to select this group of planes and right click, make component. Notice the shortcut key is G. And I'm going to call it box. I'm going to select this group of planes, right click, and I'm going to make it a group. Those are two different ways we can group different planes together. On the surface, they seem very similar, but what I'll do is I'm going to make a copy, and for move, tap the control key, and for move, tap the control key. So this is a copy of a group, this is a copy of a component. If I double click inside this component, you can see what happens. All the world kind of turns grayish. There's a bounding box around this shape. It's telling me I'm inside a component. And I'm going to draw a line from here to here. Look what happened over here. P for push-pull. Didn't affect these two. Well, they're groups made differently, right? Well, double click in this group. I'm going to draw a line from here straight down. Notice this one didn't get it. In other words, these two components, what happens to one happens to both. In this set, it's just a grouping of surfaces. If I select a component, right click, and you select entity info, it'll tell me things about it. For example, it'll tell me there's two in the model, and the name is a box. If I select this group, look what the entity info information gives us. There's no particular name, it's just a group. It's a grouping of items. Something to be aware of. I tend to prefer making components, first of all, because you do get names, and that way you can organize your drawing better. Which is interesting, because if, let's say, I want to paint this surface. Now notice, I double click to get in it. Let's look at this a second. Let's say I want a material, and I want this red material. I select it to be ready to go. If I paint this, the whole thing gets red. What if I only want this surface to get red? Well, what I've done basically is I've painted the component. Because look, inside, this is the same thing, right? This didn't get changed, the color didn't get changed because I've only painted the outside shell that's creating the component. Also notice the component is always going to be a kind of a box. So even though this corner's been lopped off, it's going to be like that. Let's undo that. That's not what I wanted. I just wanted this edge, let's say. So I'm double click. I just want this to be painted. So select the color and paint that, and now look what happens, right? So you want to be careful whether you're inside the component or outside the component to be able to what you're affecting. One other thing to be aware of is the zoom and the undo. We've talked about undo, and we've even used it here several times. But for zooming, there's a lot of different options. And what I found a lot of times is that I don't use these that much, because having the scroll wheel zoom is so much better. So if I want to go to the bottom of this line, I put my cursor there, and look at that. If I want to go to the top of the TomTom's hat, I put my cursor there, and that's where I go. So using the scroll wheel and the select tool is really great. However, sometimes I find myself like inside of a model somewhere really tight and deep. It's like, where the heck am I doing? Where am I going? I want to zoom out. I've lost myself in the model. So this is the zoom extents. Click on that, and it'll zoom out to the furthest area possible. I like that a lot. Again, because sometimes you get stuck in a model somewhere really deep, especially if you're like under something behind, you try to get a certain piece going on there, something happening, you're trying to clean up the model, and all of a sudden, like, where am I? I've zoomed so much I don't know where I am. Zoom extents will get you to the furthest most plane out. This one here is zoom previous in the views. So if I click on it, that's how it was before, and that one, and that, and oh, I was there, right? We were there before, and then we were there too, and now we're back to here, right? So here it is going all the different times I've zoomed around, and it gets you back to where you were in the views. And that's like the last 3 or 4 views it'll save, which is really handy too, because if you zoom in on a spot and it's like, oh, wait a second, I'm zooming in here. Oh, wait a second, I want to go back to the last view. Click here, and it'll go to the last view. And then before that, and then before that, and then before that. So that's very handy. These zooms are very handy. It's important to be aware of the axes, the red, green, and blue axes. When you're working in 3D, it's real easy if you're not careful to maybe move things in the wrong direction. Keep an eye on your snapping, keep an eye on the direction you're moving. The arrow keys on your keyboard can lock it. The up arrow key would be the blue. The right arrow key is the red. Think about right, and red begins with the R, so right. And then the other side is green. Right? If up is blue and right is red, then green's the other one. And then the bottom is for parallel or perpendicular. And sometimes when you draw angled lines and so forth, it's nice to have that ability to be either parallel or perpendicular to whatever line you're drawing. And this is a little link here that if you want to take a look at it on the PDF, the lecture PDF, you can click on it and learn about the inferencing and how that works. For angled lines, it's really good. Regarding axes to be aware of, if you go over here, if you remember how to do this, and maybe you have this set up from the last time, but under styles, if you go to the edit, and down here for the color, if you click on by axis, all the pieces that are parallel to red, green, and blue will show up in that color. So like this line here, for example, not the correct angle, so it doesn't show up in that. It'll stay black. But this is a double check. If for some reason you're trying to do something and it doesn't quite work out, doesn't close, that's a visual clue that there's something out of whack. So let's take a moment and look at this. So we're modeling a space, let's say, and we've got the walls in place. That's looking pretty good. That's great. I'm gonna draw a line from here to here to close the shape, and it's gonna become a box, right? Ooh, what's going on here? Why did the lid top not happen? So I'll just draw this line again, then, I'll just kind of draw up here maybe that, oh, this is kind of odd. What's going on? One thing we do is if you draw a line diagonally in the shape, if it closes, that means that it's warped. There's something going on. These lines aren't parallel to each other. And if I erase that line, then it's gone. So when you see this happening, you want to fix your model. And there's many different ways of doing it, but you do not want to keep working on a model that's not behaving like it should. And that's when getting the by axis will help us see what's going on. And right now we see, okay, the line is blue. Yep. But this is not green. It needs to be green parallel to that. And this is not red parallel to that. So these two are parallel to each other. They're parallel to each other. That's why this plane got created. But this is not parallel to that. So we need to kind of make sure that that happens. So one thing I tend to do is sometimes I erase the lines that aren't right. They're black. They're not right. They're not right. So let's go back. And I draw a line here. And when I draw, I make sure I stay in the right angle, and then I might hold down the shift key. If I hold down the shift key, look what happens to the line, and I can just then go over here and click on this point right here, click, and right now I see exactly what my problem is. Look at that, they didn't line up, did they? So I'm going to go ahead and erase these lines too while I'm at it and make it right. So that's something to consider too. So I'm going to go draw a line here, shift, and we'll go up in here, click, and then we'll go over here, click, and then go over here. Click, perfect. Look at that. It made the shape on top. We are now, it's good now. It's always good to go back, and that's perfect. It's always good to go back and fix your model as you go. Do not keep it a little wonky, thinking that it's going to be faster in the long run. You'll find yourself trying to fight it. Let me go back to the original error problem. So if I try and push-pull, I mean, it's not going to push-pull right. It's at a funky angle. you know. And even then, look at that. Now we've got a little gap going on here, a tiny little gap. If you zoom up, look at this, right? It's a gap because the top planes, when you push pull parallel, and if it's a slight angle, it's going to push pull at a slightly parallel angle. So again, you definitely want to fix things as you go. At the beginning, the instructor is a good palette to have open. To see it, you can just go to Window, Default Tray, and make sure Instructor's checked. And it'll show up on the side. You can keep it minimized for a while, but sometimes you might want to open it up to see the options you have, especially if you hover over a tool or click on a tool to start. It'll tell you things like, for example, here's our modifier keys, right, that we talked about in the session here. I also have links in the lectures always. So here, there's some places that for tutorials, for the Knowledge Center links, and also to go to the help forum. So you can go to SketchUp Help Forum and search questions about things, and there'll be people there that could help you with some questions. And there are some videos that I would like you to watch for the class, and these are the ones that are in Talent. If you just click on them, you'll see them. They're the Square One videos. We've done a few of them already, but this will give you some more background on them. So at the end of the session is an assignment recap. By the time we have our next session, I'd like you to play around with the SketchUp program. If you haven't yet, you really should get in the habit of just going in there and trying things out. And especially when you watch the videos, those Square One videos, if you can, pause them every so often and see if you can make it do like they do on the video, or whatever it is they're talking about. Those are the SketchUp videos. Again, I'd like you to have them watched before the next class. And then to submit to Talent, I want you to make sure you have the move exercise completed and submitted. Complete that third chair. And if you need to, you can review the steps again by going to this particular link, or just rewind this lecture and go back to that spot in this lecture. And then the first two chairs in the video. Now that one, you should look at this link here and go find that particular video for the first two chairs and follow along there. That would be the actual video you would have downloaded without my talking over and explaining what's going on, and see how that works for you. Make sure you save the file as two chairs, your initials, and then upload that to Talent when you have done.